But inshallah, today we will cover Surah Al-An'am. Surah Al-An'am. So this is the sixth surah in the Quran, and it spans 165 verses, 165 ayahs. So it's a pretty lengthy surah, and it spans the seventh and the eighth, ajza of the Quran. And the interesting thing about this surah, aside from everything else, is that it's a Makki surah, but it is still very lengthy. Most Makki surahs, the surahs that revealed in Mecca, when the Prophet ﷺ was living in Mecca for 13 years during his nubuwah, they're usually pretty short. They're usually fairly short, and the Madani surahs are the ones that are pretty extensive. In the Madani surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Madani surahs, He brings ahkam, He brings rulings, prohibitions, commandments, etc. All of those things, they come in Madani surahs. In the Makki surahs, typically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring more of the stories, and usually they'll be like very succinct, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring warnings of the Day of Judgment. He'll bring the warnings of Jahannam. He'll bring enticement of the hereafter by telling the beauty of Jannah, and he'll talk about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most forgiving, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also very severe in His punishment, and He is very just. So all of those are directed towards the people of Mecca specifically. These Makki surahs are specifically directed to the people, either towards the people of Mecca or those people in today's day and age who have a similar mentality to the people of Mecca. Now, in this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will tell us several stories, and primarily the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, as he engages in dialogue with his father as well as the people who are living in his town. Now, this is very important to the people of Mecca specifically, because they consider Abraham, to be a father figure in their lineage as well. And of course, he's the one who is the person who built the Kaaba, so he is looked up to greatly, just in their culture. Forget the religious aspect, just in their culture, they look up to him very much. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really plays on the point that, Ibrahim was not only a very special man to you in your culture, in your civilization, in the development of your people, but he was someone selected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was someone specially chosen by God to go through, undergo so many different tests. He's the one who stood in front of various tyrants. He's the one who put up with the oppression of his people, of his own direct family, of after that his own wife and his own kid. He had to put up with his own not put up necessarily, but he had to deal with the situation surrounding his own children and his immediate family as well. So Ibrahim alayhi salam went through so much, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really plays on that point in this surah specifically to show them that, look, even though Abraham was, whatever you guys think of him, as in he was such an incredible father figure for you, he was also a prophet of God. And he is one, when he dealt with his people, the reason he had to put up with his people's claims and attacks against him was because he went against their polytheism. He went against all of their customs and norms. He said that whatever you guys are doing, I completely disagree with. And those things that Abraham and Ibrahim alayhi salam, he ran away from, you guys have now brought it into your civilization. You have brought it into your culture, and now you have brought it into the same house that Abraham built, which was, of course, the Kaaba, the Baytullah, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really brings this story for us, and He talks about, and He actually brings those exact dialogue between those two groups of people, Ibrahim alayhi salam and the polytheists at that time. And this is actually one of the crucial points of Makki surahs, of surahs that were revealed when the Prophet ﷺ was living in Mecca, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would often focus on three major points in Makki surahs. Number one, it was Tawheed. Which was the singular belief in one God. That's it. It's not, a multiplicity of beliefs that, hey, well, you know what, this is possible, and that's possible, and that could be a God, and He's also a God, all these things. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was very firm in this statement that there is only a single God. And this is something that, the Meccans of the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they had varying degrees of disbelief. Some of them were so open to say that, yes, we believe in all of these gods. All of them are equally powerful, and they're all gods. Others would say, well, no, we know that there is a singular God. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of all things. However, He has made these little demigods, and He has assigned them responsibilities, and He has given them certain powers, and He has allowed them, so we go to them for our different needs. And then they would sometimes make the claim that, well, we worship these things or these idols, and so that they can help us get nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. مَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ إِلَّا لِيُقَرِّبُنَا إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفَى. We don't worship them except that they help us get to God. That's it. They just serve as a means of getting closer to God. So Islam came to actually just completely wipe that away and say, no, you have a direct connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We believe in the oneness of God, and anyone and everyone is able to get to God through their own personal individual connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He has revealed, divine ways which are a prescription for us. A prescription for us. A person who feels like, I don't have a connection to God. Well, there's a very simple prescription that has been given. Go and make wudu, go and purify yourself, stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in secrecy, in private, away from everyone, and build that connection in prayer, and build that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the first real, strong pillar that Makki surahs are based on, which is Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then after that, it is risala. It is risala, the messagehood of the Prophet ﷺ. That this is, the Prophet ﷺ has been given this book, and he has been selected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be the final messenger of all time. That's it. This is the last messenger, and there were many messengers who came before him. However, he is khatam. He is the seal that has been placed upon prophethood, and he is the last one. So the people, they were willing to accept that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was a very special person. He was, he's a very kind and generous and, respected person, a person of honor and merit. However, they could not accept that he was given prophethood. He was divinely selected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to carry the message of Islam. So they had a big issue with that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really reinforces the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's stand and his status as a prophet. And he says, look, his prophethood is something that we have selected ourselves, we have designated, and the Quran is the strongest proof and evidence for Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's prophethood. So that's the second pillar that the Makki surah stand on. And finally, the third one is the resurrection. The resurrection. This is something that the Makkans really had a big issue with as well. They had a really big problem. They could not accept that they would be resurrected and brought in front of God again. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He brings a beautiful example in Surah Yasin. In Surah Yasin, a man comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He grabs like a bone from the ground, and he crushes it up. And he says, قَالَ مَنْ يُحْيِي الْإِظَامَ وَحِيَ رَمِيمٌ. He says that who is going to give life to these bones after they become dust and dirt? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, tell this man, the same one who gave these things life before, when they were much less than this, he's the one who will give life to them again. So this is something they had a really big issue with. They would be brought back up, and they would challenge the Prophet ﷺ. They said, why don't you bring, the dead to life? Bring them up, bring our forefathers up, and then we want to talk to them, and we want you to prove it right in front of our eyes that, we're really going to be brought back. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about these three things. He really talks about the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His immense and absolute complete power over all things. The messengerhood of the Prophet ﷺ, that he is the single prophet who was sent to these people, and he is the final in a line of prophets. And finally, that there is a day of resurrection, and then there will be a sequence of events that will follow that, which include either your entry into paradise or your entry into the hellfire. So these three main points. And we'll talk about actually the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam as he engages in a similar dialogue with his people. Now, one of the very cool things about this surah is that it has the word qul is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that say. It has that word repeated at least 40 times in this surah. 40 times it is repeated. So actually, let's turn to verse 19. Let's turn to verse 19. In this surah, in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He commands the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay, not only are you doing, tilawah, which is, reading these verses that Allah has descended upon you, but within them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving him specific commands to say these exact words to these people. So he says in verse 19, قُلْ أَيُّ شَيْءٍ أَكْبَرُ شَهَادَةً. So and he says, okay, say to these people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, say to these people, what is, that which has the greatest witness to it, or that which is really attested to? What is that thing that is really attested to? قُلِ اللَّهُ شَهِيدٌ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكُمْ. He says that, say this. So again, this is qul is repeated twice already in just a single verse. He says that, Allah is the one who is watching over you and I. He is our witness, okay? In the claims that you make and the claims that I make, God is watching over these claims. And then He subhanahu wa ta'ala continues in the verse, and then just a little while later, He will say to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to command them again, قُلْ لَا أَشْهَدُ. Okay, قُلْ لَا أَشْهَدُ. So again, for the third time, he says that, say that I will not, agree with whatever claims that you are making. I'm not going to bear witness to that. And then right after that, he says again, قُلْ. He says, say again, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for a fourth time, in one verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly commanding His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to speak to them, to give them da'wah, to give them a very bold statement and rebuttal against their claims. Now, we have to understand the context behind the revelation of this surah as well. So this is a Makki surah, and as we mentioned, there are those 3 points that Makki surahs are really, built upon. Now, the Prophet ﷺ was essentially, he was really, 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 really oppressed in Mecca. We know this. Okay, this is like, as an understatement, he was very, very much oppressed. But he was really looking forward to moving to Medina. He was. At this point, there had been, emissaries had come from Medina and they had met with the Prophet ﷺ in secret, and he was hoping that he would eventually move to Medina to go to a place where Islam would be able to flourish, where Muslims would no longer be oppressed and persecuted by the people of that city, whatever city they would be in, which was, firstly was Mecca and then eventually Medina. Now, when the Prophet ﷺ, was really feeling like this, he was really feeling like, I need an escape because he had just lost his wife. His wife Khadija radiallahu anha had just passed away, and then his uncle had also passed away, Abu Talib. So the Prophet ﷺ had lost two of his, the strongest pillars in his life. He had lost his most ardent supporters, the people who had really helped him in through difficult times, and he was seeing that his companions are going through such hardship. Seeing those Sahaba, those people who are, following the Prophet ﷺ, and they lived lives of luxury just recently. And now, all of a sudden, after they began to follow Islam, their lives really took a downturn, and they were feeling, the struggle of being a Muslim. These are the people who really, really face the struggles of Islam at the very early stages. And the Prophet ﷺ, he felt that within himself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed specifically this surah, as well as many other surahs, that were, to strengthen the heart of the Prophet ﷺ, to really strengthen him and make him firm in these trying times, So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he brings the story of the forefather of the Prophet ﷺ. The forefather of the Prophet ﷺ, who was, of course, Ibrahim alayhi salam. He says, look, your great, 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 all the way up there, grandfather, look at what he went through. You at least have some of your family members, they are also helping you. But Ibrahim, he was kicked out of his house. He was also kicked out of his town. Those people who he was giving da'wah to, his own people, they were polytheists. And he tried to give them da'wah, and they refused to accept the da'wah. And they tried to kill him. Just like your people are also trying to kill you, they also tried to kill Ibrahim. And we divinely protected him, and we saved him. And then after that, we took him away from there, and we gave him, a new place. And eventually, of course, Ibrahim alayhi salam would go to settle in Mecca, and he would establish Mecca, and he would make dua for the people of Mecca. And then we spoke about this earlier, about how the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam was accepted. This was in Surah Baqarah, we spoke about this. So the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam was accepted in the new city that he went to. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, by way of the mention of Ibrahim alayhi salam's story, he's kind of telling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's like a foreshadowing that you are going through all of these things. Your people are oppressing you. Your people are doing this. They're engaged in polytheism. They're trying to kill you. They're making your life so difficult. And some of them are your family members. And your close family members are now, they're in your presence. Some of them have passed away. You're going through so much hardship. But just like Ibrahim was able to leave those people, and then he was able to go somewhere else and establish that place, it's as if you, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Muhammad, you will also go somewhere else and you will establish that place. And so Medina became that place for the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He would eventually, within a year or two of revelation of this surah, Surah Al-Ma'idah, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam emigrated from Mecca to Medina. He had to do it in secret because those people would not let him leave. The Meccans would not let him leave. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam left in secret to Medina. He got to Medina, and then of course he established it. And today it is what it is. Today it's called Al-Madinatul Munawwara. It's a city that it's the brightly lit and beautified city. We can see it from miles up in the sky. It looks like a gleaming jewel. So this is something that the Prophet ﷺ established after all of that persecution that he went through, and we can see the parallels between his story and the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Actually, if we go to the verse, I believe this is verse 75. This is verse 75, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how Ibrahim alayhi salam was shown the signs of God in all of creation. He says, وَكَذَلِكَ نُرِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ مَلَكُوتَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلِيَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُوقِنِينَ. It says, in this manner we showed Ibrahim the signs of the creation of the heavens and the earth. How and this is the word malakut is used. There's a very, very, very lengthy discussion on this word, and the reality of this word goes far beyond what we can imagine. So he says, we showed Ibrahim all of these things, and we made him from those people who had true certainty, true iman, and true faith. And this is evident when Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was thrown into the fire. Imagine you're going into this raging fire. You're about to be thrown into it, and he's, flying through the air into that fire, and he survives like nothing. He's just relaxing in this, burning fire. That's because he has certainty that God is the one in charge. He saw all of the creation. He saw all of the heavens and the earth. He saw these things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed him. He was a prophet of God, and he was one of the highest prophets of God. So he saw these things, and he knows that Allah is in charge. What is this fire? It's not going to do anything to me. In the same way, when he went to sacrifice his son, he knows that Allah is the one who is in charge of cause and effect. He's in charge of the way things happen in this universe, in this life, in this world. So whatever happens, it's going to happen by the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then in a couple of verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually talks about Ibrahim alayhi salam looking at everything and using that as a means of giving da'wah to people. So some people, they might make a tiny little slip up here and think that Ibrahim alayhi salam actually was confused when he looked at different signs and considered them to be God. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, فَلَمَّا جَنَّ عَلَيْهِ اللَّيْلُ رَأَى كَوْكَبًا. So he says that when it became night and he saw a star, so most likely he saw a planet, and he says, قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. And he said, oh, this is my Lord. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ قَالَ لَا أُحِبُّ الْآفِلِينَ. So that, and when it actually disappeared, during after night's gone and sunrise, you're not going to see the stars and you're not going to see the planets and stuff. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he looked and he said, oh no, I don't like those that disappear. Now, some might think that, well, did Ibrahim actually think that, these might be God, or the sun might be God, or the moon might be God? Actually, he didn't. He did not. He presented this in a way of arguing. Okay, this was his way of posing an argument that how can we worship something that is here temporarily and it will disappear? And the comparison here is between these heavenly bodies, these celestial bodies, and these idols that people are worshiping. He said, look, these idols, my dad is the one who makes these idols. I see my dad constructing these things from nothing. Okay, he gets some, rock or stone or whatever, and he gets, a piece of wood, and then he might, chop it up and make it into a nice little statue. Then he gives it to you. So I know when it was nothing, and now it became something, and now you're worshiping it. So are you guys also worshiping, the sun? Because the sun is here right now, but at night it's going to disappear. We're not going to see the sun. So just like, the sun is here and it's gone, the moon is here and it's gone, the stars and the planets are here, but then they disappear. How can you say that, we're not going to worship those because they disappear? But this statue was not here yesterday, and it's here today, and it's not going to be here tomorrow. It's going to turn into dust. How are you worshiping that? So this is the Quranic way of posing that argument. And this is Ibrahim alayhi salam doing so to his people, and he is giving them, this logical train of thought. Unfortunately, some people cannot really, take their seat on the train, I guess, so they were not able to keep up with Ibrahim alayhi salam's logic, or they just refused to leave their polytheism and their way of life, which is the most difficult thing for some people, is they don't want to change. They don't want to leave that comfort zone of the things that they were involved in and what they were doing, just because it's comfortable. That's it. Whether it's right or wrong, that's irrelevant. I'm comfortable. I'm okay with the way things are right now. I don't want to change. I don't want to experience any discomfort. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, no matter how much he was able to, give them such simple da'wah, such beautiful da'wah, they still refused to accept because they just didn't want to change. They refused to change their life. And not only that, but they attacked the person who was giving them, all of this call towards goodness. He was giving them a call towards goodness. He was not calling them towards, hey, worship my God, he's going to throw you in hell. No, he was saying, worship my God and he will give you, success in this life and in the hereafter. He'll give you happiness now and he'll give you eternal happiness in the hereafter. So this is what Ibrahim alayhi salam was calling towards, but they refused to listen. Our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what was he calling those people towards? He says, he used to run behind the people. According to one Sahabi gives a narration. He says that, this is a Sahabi, he was in Medina, of course, when he told this narration, but he says, when I used to be in Mecca, before I was a Muslim, he says, I used to sit there in Mecca and I used to see Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I used to see the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam running behind people. I used to see him running behind people saying, Ya ayyuhan nas qulu la ilaha illallah tuflihu. He used to say to those people, he used to run behind them, O people, say la ilaha illallah, you will be successful. You will be victors. Falah is victory. He says, say this, you will be victorious. Say this, you will be victorious. Say this, you will be victorious. And he was right. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was right. All those people were completely wrong, because they used to spit on him. They used to attack him. They used to throw dirt and dust at him. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And was he wrong in saying that the person who says La ilaha illallah will be victorious? Because what happened? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he goes to Medina, and all of those people who said La ilaha illallah, they are his followers. The people who truly said La ilaha illallah, they are his followers. They walked into Mecca and they walked in victorious. They walked in victorious. They were victorious. Just like he Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that if you say La ilaha illallah, tuflihu, you will be victorious. You will win. That's exactly what they did. They won. They defeated the Meccans. They won in Mecca. Not only that, but then they defeated the two largest empires at the time, the Sassanid Empire and the Byzantine Empire. They took over. They defeated the Persians. They defeated the Romans, And who are they? These were all the believers. These were those people who said, La ilaha illallah. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, if you say La ilaha illallah, I guarantee you victory. Not just victory in this world, which is, of course, going to come with the territory. A person will be victorious. Allah will give them victory. But also victory in the hereafter, which is much more important. Much more important. You might win today. Today, if you go out and you win a trophy, you win some kind of sports competition, whatever it might be, you win something. Okay, and it'll be awesome. You'll get the trophy. You'll be so high. You'll be very happy. And you'll be all hype. You'll take pictures and send it to everybody, and you'll be biting the trophy like Nadal does, or you'll put it in a little case and stuff. And after a week or so, you'll realize you're not just as happy anymore. It's kind of worn off, and then it's worn off a little bit more. It's worn off a little bit more. After a couple of years, you're like, oh, I remember the glory days, it was fun. So that's it. That victory that you had, it has worn off. That's a temporary victory. Eternal victory is what's in the hereafter, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised for those people who hold true, sincere belief. True, sincere belief will grant you eternal victory. So let's continue, inshallah. Let's move to verses 151 and 2. 151 and 52. So, in these, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in these verses, He actually gives a large number of commandments to do and to avoid certain things. So let's actually look over the whole verse. We won't go too much into detail, just list them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ. Again, He's saying that. He's telling the Prophet ﷺ, okay, tell these people, go and command these people specifically. تَعَالَوْا أَتْلُوا مَا حَرَّمَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ. He says, tell them to come to me and let me tell you what my Lord has made impermissible upon you. And who are these people? Remember, this is not towards, the group of believers only. This is towards everyone. These commandments, you will notice that they're for the general populace, not just for the believers. أَلَّا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. Nobody, whoever you may be, is allowed to commit shirk. That's the first thing. A person cannot associate partners with God, number one. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And number two, look at this. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the biggest sin that a person can do, which is shirk, which is associating partners with God, He mentions number two, which is you must treat your parents with respect. Treat your parents well. Ihsan. Ihsan. Treat your parents well. So after, saying that, okay, there's only one God. Okay, what do you want me to do next? Take care of your parents. That's number two. Imagine, the height that parents have reached in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just the status of being a parent. Allah has, raised the rank of a parent to this much that He mentions them right after Himself. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُم مِّنْ إِمْلَاقٍ. Number three, and right after parents, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions children. Okay, parents have a very high status. Your children also have an extremely, extremely high status. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not kill them from fear of poverty. Do not kill them from fear of poverty. And there is so much beauty in this. Of course, there's beauty in the entire ayah, but this part, I just wanted to really, because I just thought of something that one of our teachers had told us, and it was an incredibly deep point. Firstly, people just look at the literal translation, which is okay, that people were killing their children because they feared, okay, we're not going to be able to take care of this kid, and this kid is going to require, it's not cheap to raise a child, okay? So they're going to say that we're going to have to feed this kid, we're going to have to clothe him, we're going to have to do this and this and this, so let's just get rid of the child. And so people will eliminate the child before either it's even born or before the child grows up, or right after birth or whatever it might be. And this is unfortunately the custom and still in many parts of the world, and it's a barbaric thing, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease the suffering of those people, those children. May He put an end to such a horrible thing which people are engaged in today, thinking that children are a burden. Children are a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every child that comes into this world comes with its own risk. Every child that comes with its own sustenance. So we should not be fearing having children. We should be fearing that we don't meet the rights of the children. So the first one is, of course, that killing a child because you think, oh, I'm not going to be able to take care of it, so you kill it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says no, absolutely not. And number two, this is another very beautiful point. Our teacher said that do not kill your child's afterlife. Do not kill their afterlife by forcing them to do something or engage in a certain field or move in a certain direction in their life because you feel that that's not going to be enough risk for them, enough sustenance for them. Now the understanding was because we were studying at the time, we were studying in our institutes and stuff. So one of the reasons why people don't put their children in Islamic institutes is because they think, What's he gonna do after? Where is she gonna go? What's he gonna do? He's gonna be a big molvi, or she's gonna be some sheikha or some ustada. Where is she gonna go in life? Where is he gonna go in life? And so, as a result of the parents' fear that, hey, he's going to be begging people for money when he grows up, just because he's a sheikh or something, he's going to have to beg people for money. People are going to have to do, favors for him, and they're going to have to, he's going to put his hand forward, hoping people will give him something. And as a result of that fear that parents have, they don't let their children enroll in institutes. They don't let their children take a gap year between high school and college to go and study, for a 1 year program and learn the fundamentals of their deen, or study for 4 or 5, 6 years, just so that they can become properly rooted in Islamic sciences and then go and teach them. So the parents are afraid that, well, okay, fine, he's going to get a master's degree in Islamic studies. What's he going to do with that? No, he needs to get a master's in computer science, or he has to become a JD, he has to become an MD, he has to do this or this or this. That's how he's going to get by in life. You mean to tell me that he wants to become a scholar? What's a scholar going to get paid? And because some parents might keep their children from going into these fields. A child might have an interest to study Islamic studies, and the parent might be like, no, I'm not going to make my kid, an alim. He doesn't need to be an alim. He doesn't need to be a scholar. She doesn't need to memorize the Quran. No, she just has to do the basics. And because they keep them from engaging in the sciences or engaging in Islam as much as they wish, perhaps they might be endangering their hereafter. So this might be qatl. This might be, killing their hereafter, killing their prospects. So this is something that our teacher really kind of told us as a means of really of solace for us as well, because growing up and when you go into an institute and you're studying there for several years, you do kind of begin to think, well, what am I going to do after I'm done? So our teachers were like, don't worry, don't worry. You definitely made the right choice. Your parents also made the right choice. Make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says that inni ana razaq dhul quwwatil mateen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, innahu huwa razaq dhul quwwatil mateen. I apologize. The very first part where I said inni ana razaq, that's a very shadh qira'ah. Okay, this is from Abdullah bin Masud radiyallahu anhu. It's not really read often. So that was a mistake. Innahu huwa razaq dhul quwwatil mateen. Allah is the one who is the absolute sustainer of all things. So let's move on to the next point. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, نَحْنُ نَرْزُقُكُمْ وَإِيَّاهُمْ. This is exactly the point that we were getting to. That Allah is the one who says, I give you rizq. I give all of you, as in you parents, I'm the one who will give you rizq, and I will give them sustenance as well. You're not the one taking care of your children. I'm taking care of them, just like I'm taking care of you. You think that you're taking care of your kids. Okay, who's taking care of you? I'm the one taking care of you and your kids, so don't worry about that. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الْفَوَاحِشَ مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, He continues, remember that these commandments are not just for believers. They are a general commandment to everyone. To everyone. He says, do not go near apparent and obvious sin. Fawahish are those which are, very explicit sins that are done in open. Okay, things that everyone knows these things are wrong. He says, do not go near those things, مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ, those things which are apparent and obvious and free-flowing in society, and those things which are not very well known. Maybe it's something that people are ashamed to admit to, but they still do it. Or maybe it's something that, it's not really, it's not really talked about, and yet everyone's really engaged in it. These kinds of sins, be they open sins or be they closeted and closed sins that nobody really discusses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, avoid them. Not only does He say, just don't do them, He says, avoid them, stay away from them. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا. Don't even go near them. Do not say that, well, you know what, let me, I'm not going to engage in this thing. Maybe if all of my colleagues, they go for happy hour, I'm not going to drink. They're going to go and they're going to drink at the restaurant or at work or whatever it might be. I'm not going to drink myself, but I'm just going to go hang out with them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا. Don't go near that. Because can you guarantee that you might not fall into something? How do you know that peer pressure or the societal pressure to take a sip is not going to overcome you? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, play it safe. Just don't go near any of these things. Then He says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not take the life of any soul that Allah has made prohibited for you. Basically, just humans in general, except with a right. Except with right. Now, the reason for this is, of course, it's that Islam does say that if a person is a person's like a murderer, or a person's a killer or something, and they're brought in front of a court of a judge, and the person is found guilty of that, then yes, their execution is permitted because the person himself or herself has been found guilty of murder. That's of course hopefully not a very common situation, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that murder is of course absolutely haram. And you would think that this is common knowledge, but He continues to ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wasiyah. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, the wasiyah is typically, something, it's like the parting advice that you give to people. It is the parting advice that you give to people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, like, if you want final advice, this is the final advice. Stay away from these major, major sins. In the next ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues some of these prohibitions. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا مَالَ الْيَتِيمِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ حَتَّى يَبْلُغَ أَشُدَّهُ. And we talked about the wealth of the orphans previously, a couple of sessions ago, I think. In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that do not go near the wealth of a orphan, except in a good manner, basically, except in a proper way until they reach adulthood. Adulthood, or they reach the age where they're able to actually dispense their own, or they're able to take control of their wealth and dispense it in an appropriate manner. Now, the reason we say that in a good, except in a good way. So I believe I made mention to this previously a couple of sessions ago, that if, for example, someone is taken the responsibility of an orphan, let's say they take the responsibility of an orphan, of a child who does not have parents, or someone, they look after them, even if, let's say, the child, their parents are far, far away and the kid is just living here. So now you take them into your house, or you look after their responsibilities, maybe you give them a home or whatever it might be. You have access to just that amount of wealth that is necessary to fulfill their needs. So you can use from their wealth, from the wealth of that yatim, from the wealth of that orphan, that amount which will fulfill all of the needs of that child. But you can't just go and take it, well, you know what, I'm going to take a 15% commission or something. You can't do that. You can only use that which is okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, hiya ahsan, that which is good for them to use. وَأَوْفُوا الْكَيْلَ وَالْمِيزَانَ بِالْقِسْطِ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, He says, and be honest and upright in the way that you measure things. In the way that you measure things. So basically, in your business transactions, in dealings that you have with one another, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, fulfill the rights of the contract. If you have a contract with a person that, as the seller or as the buyer, I agree that I will be, I will give you exactly this many kg, or I will pay exactly this much, and then all of a sudden you renege on your promise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't do that. Absolutely, you should meet the requirements of whatever contract that you have with a person, or in any business dealings that you do. لا نكلف نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we do not overburden a person except that which they have the ability to handle. That's it. So you should not overburden yourself, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself is saying that if you're going through a difficult time, then don't think that this is too much for me. This is exactly what Allah knows you can handle. وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ فَاعْدِلُوا وَلَوْ كَانَ ذَا قُرْبَى وَبِأَحْدِ اللَّهِ أَوْفُوا ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful part of the ayah, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concludes with. He says, وَإِذَا قُلْتُمْ فَاعْدِلُوا وَلَوْ كَانَ ذَا قُرْبَى. If you speak, basically if you give testimony, okay, if you speak, then always speak the truth. Speak upright. Be honest. Even if you are speaking against a close family member. Even if you are speaking against a close family member. لَوْ كَانَ ذَا قُرْبَى. The person has qaraba to you, the person is near to you, be a close family or a close friend. Allah says, be honest and upright. وَبِأَحْدِ اللَّهِ أَوْفُوا. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in the promises that you have made with God, you've promised God, right? So uphold your promises to God. Uphold your side of the deal. ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, He says that these are the things that Allah has given you, as a parting advice, that these are your final commandments. Okay, this is for everyone. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. So perhaps you may remember the promises that you made to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, some of you might notice, let's just go over them actually really quickly, because I know this was in detail. Well, not so much detail, but maybe we might get lost in all of the commandments or prohibitions. So they are, let's just look over them in brief. Number one, shirk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not commit shirk. Do not do good to your parents. Basically, do not treat them ill. Do not kill your children fearing poverty. Do not go near indecency, okay, whether it is apparent or whether it is hidden. Do not kill a soul which Allah has prohibited, except through the due right, basically through a judicial system or whatever it might be. Do not go near the wealth of an orphan. Do justice in trade and in commerce. If you speak, then speak with justice. Speak up with uprightness, even if it's against your own family. And keep your covenants with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Keep your promises with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now you might notice that these are very similar to the 10 commandments of Moses that were given to Musa alayhi salam. And I mean, we're not going to say that these are identical to the commandments of Musa alayhi salam. However, these are the 10 or the 9 here, the general rulings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to essentially all of mankind. These are principles by which all of us should live. I mean, these are like major rules. These are not like little things. Oh, you should do this or you shouldn't do this. No, these are very clear cut, big commandments and prohibitions from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, inshallah, let's conclude with mention with one final verse. This is verse 160, ayah 160. So it's on the next page. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Man ja'a bil hasanati falahu asharu amthaliha, wa man ja'a bis sayyati fala yujza illa mithlah, wa hum la yuzlamun." This is a very beautiful verse from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially in the month of Ramadan. He subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the person who comes with a good deed, then he will have 10 according to that good deed, as in 10. It's as if he did that deed 10 times. So he will be rewarded for it 10 times over. And the person who comes with an evil deed, the person makes a mistake or a sin, then he will only get the punishment, or he will only get the sin of that one sin. He will only get that single sin. He will not get 10 times. So this is from the great mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says that وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. He says that oppression will not be done to you. So this is not even oppression. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes someone to task for a single bad deed that they do, this is not oppression from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is justice. However, He is being overly kind to us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being overly kind. We do one good deed, He's multiplying it by 10. In this month of Ramadan, He's multiplying that by who knows how much. Who knows how much. And sometimes we get a little bit lost. We say, oh well, brother, if we tell them that it's preferable to pray in the masjid, it's multiplied 20 to 25, 25 to 27 times, then people will say, well, it's okay, I'll pray at home. We should not have to convince people that, come to the masjid to pray your salah, or pray at home in jama'ah. Now that, unfortunately, right now the masajid are closed, we should not have to convince our children or our family members that we should pray in a jama'ah at home, that there is more reward in the jama'ah at home. Who knows what the reward for one salah is? We don't know. Honestly, we have no idea how much reward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us for praying one salah, one namaz that you pray at home. Can you tell me that this is the number of reward you're going to get? This is what the reward will look like. Nobody knows. We have no idea what that is, honestly. And even if the reward, let's say it's, ma bayna samai wal ard, that which is between the heavens and the earth, it'll cover it. What does that mean? Like, we have never seen something like that. We have no idea how to understand that. So the reward for just one prayer is beyond what we can comprehend. So imagine the reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, you don't even get one reward, you get 10. So forget praying 5 times, it's as if you prayed 50 times. And we can't even make ourselves pray 5 times a day. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, just pray 5 times, I'll give you 50 times your reward. In Ramadan, I'm multiplying that times a number you don't even understand, a number you cannot even fathom. So the reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised for all of the deeds that we do is beyond comprehension. And the sins and mistakes which we continuously fall into, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, okay, I know you made a mistake. I will only hold that one little mistake against you. Only that one little mistake against you. So this is from the incredible mercy of Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is His incredible bounty upon us, especially in this month of Ramadan, which He has, from His fadl, He has allowed us to see it again. And this is the month when all of our good deeds are multiplied to, like I said, a number we cannot even imagine, cannot comprehend the reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in store for us. So we should make the most of it. There is no guarantee that Ramadan will come again. No guarantee that we will see it again. No guarantee we will even see the end of this Ramadan. So let's make the most of it right now, that we seek forgiveness for all of those sins that we have done in this month of Ramadan and prior to it, throughout our lives. We should take time to recollect all of those, missteps, big sins, minor sins we've done knowingly and unknowingly, and seek the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the meantime, we should also engage in an abundant amount of worship, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will multiply it. In this month especially, He will multiply it so much so, and we will see inshallah the reward and the fruits of all of that effort in the hereafter. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me tawfiq, may He give you tawfiq to make the most of the time that we have been given. And inshallah, we will see you again very soon. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.